The 1950s, a decade of optimism, classic cars, and fun fads that we thought were the peak of coolness. Growing up back then, we were all enchanted by quirky trends and gadgets that, looking back, were sometimes downright silly. It was a simpler time, a time when sock hops, soda shops, and drive-in movies ruled our world. Let's take a trip down memory lane and revisit some of those fads that made us feel like we were the coolest cats around. Who knows? You might find yourself laughing at just how much things have changed. Poodle skirts with matching scarves. Let's kick things off with a classic, the poodle skirt. These big swinging skirts with felt appliques of poodles or other fun designs were all the rage. Pair it with a matching scarf tied around your neck or in your hair, and you were ready to turn heads. We felt so stylish swishing around in those big skirts at sock hops. Today, they might seem a bit out there, but back then, there was nothing cooler than rocking that poodle skirt. Who remembers practicing dance moves to make the skirt swing just right? Gelled hair and ducktail hairstyles. The ducktail hairstyle, or DA, as some called it. It took a fair amount of hair gel and some serious combing skills to create that slicked back look with the perfectly styled tail in the back. And it wasn't just for the boys. Girls went wild for big curls and bouffants. It seemed like every morning was a battle with the comb and the pomade to get just the right look. Can you imagine using that much hair gel now? Jukeboxes and dance moves at the soda shop. There was something magical about soda shops in the 50s, especially the jukeboxes. Dropping a coin in and hearing your favorite song start playing was like a little moment of freedom. We'd dance along to rock and roll hits, practicing our best twist and jitterbug moves right there on the checkered floor. The jukebox was the heart of every hangout spot, and nothing made us feel cooler than flipping through the songs with friends. Do you remember the thrill of hearing your favorite tune come on? Sock hops and dance contests. Sock hops were a major deal, usually held in the school gym or a local community hall. We'd kick off our shoes, roll up our sleeves, and dance to live music or the latest records. And let's not forget the dance contests. It was a chance to show off our best moves and maybe even impress our crush. Today's school dances are a bit different, but back then, sock hops were the ultimate social event. Who else remembers planning their best outfit for the big night? If you're enjoying this trip back to the 50s, please hit the like button and subscribe. I'd love to keep sharing these fun memories with you. Drive-in movies and movie dates. Drive-ins were more than just movies. They were an experience. You'd pull up in the family car, hang a speaker on the window, and settle in for a night under the stars. Whether it was a classic Western or the latest romance, the drive-in was the perfect place to catch a flick. And if you were lucky enough to have a date, it felt like the coolest thing in the world. Who remembers the smell of popcorn drifting through the air, or the glow of the big screen lighting up the night? Cigarette holders as fashion statements. Yes, cigarette holders were considered the height of sophistication back then. Even if you didn't smoke, just holding one made you feel glamorous, like a movie star straight off the silver screen. Looking back, it seems a bit funny that these fancy sticks were seen as cool accessories, but in the 50s, they added that extra wow factor. Who else remembers feeling just a bit fancier with one in hand? Matching family outfits. Family matching outfits were huge in the 50s, especially for holiday photos. Mom, Dad, and the kids would all dress in coordinating clothes, sometimes even matching from head to toe. It was a sweet tradition, and those outfits made for some unforgettable and sometimes cringe-worthy family pictures. Looking back, it feels pretty silly, but back then, matching outfits were a way of showing family unity and pride. Hula hoops as serious exercise. Hula hoops weren't just toys. They were a fitness craze. We'd spend hours twirling those hoops around our waists, arms, and legs, convinced it was the best workout around. It was fun, sure, but people really believed it would keep you in shape. We'd have competitions to see who could keep it going the longest. Some kids could go for what felt like hours. Today, hula hoops are just for fun, but back then, they were a major fitness trend. Do you still remember trying to master those moves? The charm of wearing saddle shoes. Saddle shoes were a staple in every 50s wardrobe. Those black and white, or sometimes brown and white shoes, were the go-to for school, dances, and just about everywhere else. They were polished to perfection and worn with pride. It felt like you could conquer the world in a pair of saddle shoes. They might look a bit old-fashioned now, but back then, they were the ultimate in cool footwear. Who remembers spending ages trying to keep them spotless? Fonzie-approved leather jackets. Thanks to the rise of cool characters like James Dean and Fonzie, leather jackets were an absolute must-have. They made you feel tough, rebellious, and ready to take on the world. Throwing on a leather jacket was like instantly earning street cred. Today, it's just another piece of clothing, but in the 50s, it was a badge of coolness. Who else remembers saving up to buy their very own leather jacket? Wearing white gloves everywhere. White gloves were a staple of the 50s, especially for women. You'd wear them to church, dinner, or even just a casual outing. Gloves were a symbol of elegance, and if you were truly fashionable, you had a pair for every occasion. Imagine slipping on gloves today just to head out for errands. Collecting and trading autograph books. Autograph books were hugely popular, and every kid wanted one filled with signatures from friends, family, and maybe even a celebrity or two. We'd pass these little books around, collecting signatures and sweet notes that we treasured. It was like a personal scrapbook of memories. Remember flipping through those pages and cherishing every little doodle? Drive-in diners and car hops. Drive-in diners with car hops on roller skates were all the rage. You'd pull up, order a milkshake or burger, and a car hop would skate over with a tray that clipped to your car window. Eating in the car felt like an event, and it was an experience no one wanted to miss. The food was often simple, but the fun was unmatched. Who else loved the thrill of eating a meal right there in the car? Roller skating everywhere. Speaking of wheels, roller skating wasn't just a fun activity, it was a way to get around. Many kids skated to school, the store, or just around the block. And with skate parks popping up, it became a full-blown craze. There was nothing like the thrill of gliding down the street on those clunky, metal-wheeled skates. Do you remember the joy or bruises that came with roller skating? 3D movie glasses. 3D movies became a huge sensation, and those paper glasses with one red lens and one blue lens were all the rage. You'd sit in the theater, eagerly waiting for things to pop out at you from the screen. The effects were usually a little rough, but it felt like pure magic at the time. Today's 3D glasses are high-tech, but back then, those paper glasses made us feel like we were on the cutting edge. Record players with built-in furniture cabinets. In the 50s, the record player wasn't just an appliance, it was a piece of furniture. Many homes had huge console cabinets that housed record players, radios, and sometimes even small TVs. These music centers were the heart of every living room, and playing records on them felt like a grand event. It was a mix of entertainment and decor all in one. Do you remember gathering around the record player with family and friends? Soda pop in glass bottles. Soda wasn't just a drink, it was an experience. There was something special about popping open a glass bottle of Coca-Cola or root beer, hearing that fizz and taking that first sip. And if you saved the bottles, you could even get a few cents back. Today, soda comes in all kinds of packaging, but nothing beats the nostalgia of those glass bottles. Who else remembers the sound of the bottle opener cracking open a cold one? Wearing hairnets to keep every curl in place. For women, keeping their hair perfectly styled was a must, and hairnets were a popular solution. Worn over rollers or curls, hairnets kept every strand in place before heading out. It may seem old-fashioned now, but back then, hairnets were like a secret weapon in the battle for perfect hair. Remember the lengths we'd go to for those flawless curls? Charm bracelets with tiny charms for every occasion. Charm bracelets were the accessory in the 50s. Each charm symbolized something special: a place visited, a milestone, or even a little inside joke. These bracelets were like tiny, wearable scrapbooks, and we'd proudly show off each little charm. Collecting new charms was exciting, and each one told its own story. Who else had a charm bracelet clinking with memories? The popularity of Spam as a culinary delicacy. Spam wasn't just a canned food in the 50s. It was a culinary trend. From Spam casseroles to Spam sandwiches, this salty meat made its way into all kinds of recipes. It was affordable, convenient, and surprisingly popular. Today, it may have lost some of its glamour, but back then, Spam was a pantry staple. Who else remembers trying out those fancy Spam recipes? The 50s were filled with trends that, looking back, were pretty silly, but absolutely wonderful in their own way. These quirks and fads made our childhoods unforgettable, full of charm and laughter. From Poodle skirts to jukeboxes, they were part of what made growing up in that era feel so magical. So, what about you? What cool 50s trend do you remember fondly, or maybe even laugh at now? Drop your memories in the comments, and let's keep the nostalgia going.